been thinking what presentation to do, and we decided to broaden it a little bit. And my name is Sergey Nikitin. I'm the head of product portfolio in Gazinformservice company. And let's try to discuss a few things. Ecosystem, feature factory, and technological debt, and how to be productive. It seems that this topic has been quite relevant for many experts. People talk about it, those who are in the market for a while, and I think it's pretty interesting. So ecosystem start with small things. Some clients say, so we are tired of your ecosystems, it's not a biology lesson. But let me say that. Maybe we'll apologize to them. So ecosystem starts with the small things, and as we know from biology course, it starts with microorganisms. And at the eve of IT age, there were probably its own microorganisms. When I was studying in radio and technology university, so these programs that I wrote were for microcontrollers, and in fact it was a microorganism with a small number of functions, and nobody was talking about ecosystems and anything else, but nevertheless the programs were there and they knew what to do. So here's the list of microorganisms that were at the eve of our history. Those who are older, they remember. Watson is probably the oldest one. I don't see Netscape Navigator. So anyway, so the apps were smaller, programs were very little, there was no any virtualization, everything was pretty simple, and nobody really thought of ecosystems. Because people were dreaming to write their own interface, they had their own formats of data. It was quite fun, interesting to do. And all that existed not in vacuum. But it was difficult to build something kind of integral from it. So there are some little things, and I think back then there was no Gmail, as Word particularly wasn't existent back then. And Traitor Among Us also wasn't there. But the programs were like this. And also there were these programs. They've been with us for a while, like in life, viruses. They kind of appeared together with computer programs. There is an opinion, biologists have it, that viruses are the drivers of evolution. With sun radiation, with solar radiation, with some changes in the climate and some disasters and all that. So that's why probably it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that viruses were also the reason why InfoSec was developing so quickly. So the process went on, and there was a history of evolution of white and black hackers. When there was this age of viruses, I loved reading Hacker magazine, and I loved writing something of my own. I didn't write viruses. I wrote mail bombs and Trojan horse. So all this story with microorganisms that were malware. So it was in some part was a driver of InfoSec. And recently, talking about some IT era, something that started in 1950s, then we can say that viruses were a certain evolution thing, and then viruses learned how to get united. And viruses, as an alive virus, it doesn't function outside of a cell, and computer viruses don't do that either. So the most famous one was Mirai in 2016, I think. And since then, evolution of our IT landscape and evolution of malware were developing in parallel, impacting each other. So we started with botnets. I call them as social networks. Social media. And this social media, I use this term that in apps you have kind of internal interfaces, and these applications, they talk to each other. So a social network, it's an ecosystem that has different applications and they have their own applicable interfaces. And this is how they talk. And they work with data. So now it's multi-cell organisms. So back to the topic of the presentation. So what is ecosystem?
А есть экосистемы, видимо, каких-то других планет, где, цитируя Булгакова, принято разговаривать с незнакомыми.
And when, like a Russian poet said, sometimes you talk to strangers, other times you do not. Speaking of our realities, what I would like to emphasize, there are some people who are building like a closed ecosystems. We're going to do it on our own. It's only us, like a mono-vendor type of relationships. There's only one vendor. They're right, and everybody else, no, it's all closed, you know, it's all proprietary, it's everything is like encrypted and stuff. So in the second approach, I would say it's a more like an open approach when vendors are saying, no, we cannot do everything perfectly, but we know that this and this we do better than anyone else. So we're providing you the interface, you need some data, here you go, plug in, and this type of approach, I believe, is more and more popular. If you'll check all this, like a famous stack of the last century, be it a blockchain, be it a neural networks, everywhere you can get like a B-talk, and you can connect, you can connect your service. Moreover, now there are some platforms where you can do some AI assistance, and you can basically build like the whole teams. I would like to do the business teams and see who it will be better. Well, robots. Robots oftentimes is a copycat, and if you think about the cybernetics, system cannot build a system which will be more complex than its originator. And now there is a dialogue: can we do some kind of a great intellect which will be better than the human intellect? And so far, it's against the cybernetic truth, but we know that the theory of relativity would also be able to explain some effects which cannot be explainable by the classic mechanics. Anyway, two paradigms, open ecosystem.
Подключайтесь, берите данные, обрабатывайте, заливайте. Ура, работаем. Либо экосистемы закрытые.
And
мы сами по себе.
It's an open system, you can do it on your own.
Гораздо лучше отлажено. Но
maybe it will be better fine-tuned, but anyway, you've got to do some kind of like a support. And it always impacts either productivity or safety. And now the question is.
Говорится, что если у вас в руках молоток, то все выглядит как гвоздь. Вот вопрос такой: вот идеальный продукт, да, как предчувствие. Вот какой вот идеальный продукт, он вот как он должен выглядеть, как надо.
The question is, what is the ideal product? How to be productive? Going back to the topic that I announced at the beginning of the presentation. You want to make a perfect product that everybody likes it. Everything works.
Но, к счастью, мы живем в изменчивом мире, потому что если
But
такой идеальный продукт сделал,
we
наверное,
live
все остальные
in a changing
бы поставили
world.
точку.
And if somebody made this perfect product,
Точку мы не
well, it will
ставим.
be over.
В лучшем случае
So
точку
we don't
запятой
put
на
the full
какое-то
stop.
время, потому что даже так вот
We put a colon here,
монопольный
and we
Windows,
say
казалось бы, куда она денется, или
Windows. Where's it going to go? We thought.
или других западных вендоров. Что-то
Some
бывает,
other
случается эволюция.
vendors.
Когда
So
вынужденная,
evolution happens.
когда добровольная,
Sometimes
тем
it's
не
kind of
менее.
pushed evolution, sometimes it's
Соответственно,
voluntary
идеальный
evolution.
продукт, вот у меня сложилось
So
мнение, что ничего
naturally,
не
a
получится.
perfect product, I feel like it's impossible to do.
Получится только приблизиться к какому-то идеалу.
It is possible only
Со
to
временем, к
approach
счастью или к несчастью, перестанет им быть.
the perfect product. And at some point, this perfect product won't be perfect anymore at a certain point.
Есть такая история, что никто, вернее, не никто, а многие или некоторые люди считают, что
Some people,
feature
and many
factory — это
people,
идеология. Сейчас мы будем делать идеальный
they
продукт, потому что
think that
идеальный
feature
продукт —
factory
это
is
что? Это продукт, который
ideology. So
нравится всем.
perfect product, what is it? And the product that everybody
Чтобы
likes.
сделать продукт, который нравится всем,
And to make a product that everybody likes, we need to ask everybody, what do they like?
наймем экспертов,
And that's
которые,
logical.
значит, сделают вот этот
So we
решающую
hire
задачу из
experts
анекдота про 7 параллельных пересекающихся линий,
who will
напишут драйвера на
resolve
JavaScript
this problem.
и,
So they write
сделают так,
drivers
как хотят.
for the script that was given to them, and they make
К
it as people
сожалению,
want it.
такой подход не рабочий.
Sadly, this
Опять
is
же,
not
возвращусь
a
немножко
working
в свое прошлое.
approach.
Для
Let
того,
me
чтобы
retrospect a little bit.
решить задачу по фильтрации сигнала там, с бесконечной полосой,
To resolve the issue of the filtration with the infinite bandwidth of the signal, so you need to have infinite resource to process it. The same here. Working in this ideology,
у вас складывается вот такая картинка. Вам начинают сниться бэклоги.
you bump into this backlog dreaming.
В конце концов, по какой модели
You
бизнеса вы
begin to think, so what business model
На мой взгляд,
you're
есть
working
две
along?
модели бизнеса. Они, в принципе,
In my view, there are two business models, and both of them
Первая модель — это мы признаем то, что
have the right to exist. First model is that you just admit that you can't do everything. We just know what we can do well, and I call this ROI, return on investment. Let's say we spend an optimal amount of resources and we give
У меня есть
an
хороший
optimal result.
Он
This
предназначен для
fine-tuning,
забивания
so I have a
гвоздей. Я
good
не буду к нему приделывать
hammer,
гвоздодер, швейцарский нож,
and
пассатижи, там
it
что-нибудь еще.
hammers
Хороший,
nails very well. I'm not going to make it something different. It's a good hammer. So I have a good production line of those hammers and I
на
produce them.
самом деле пропагандируются такие
So
авторы,
this model
как Том
is
Питерс.
propagated.
У него есть интересная книжка
Such
«Стратегия
author is Tom
совершенства»,
Peters,
который
and
что
his book
возьмите
is
что-то
called
одно,
The
сделайте
Strategy of
хорошо.
Perfection.
В
And he
условиях
says, so take some
глобального рынка
one
книжка
thing
была
and make it
написана в середине,
perfect.
ну, в конце 20-го, начале
I think
21
the
века.
book was written at the end of the 20th,
Была
beginning of
самая, наверное,
21st
интересная
century,
модель
and
с
it
учетом
was
интегрированности
the
глобальной.
most interesting model in terms of
Сейчас,
the
поскольку
integration with the global
экономика
economy.
разваливается
Since
глобально,
now the global economy is falling
возможно,
apart,
это не лучшая идея, но,
maybe it's
тем
not
не
the best
менее,
idea.
пока она интересна и
Nevertheless,
выгодна для
so far it's
большинства задач.
interesting and profitable
Путь
for
второй.
many
Возвращаемся в аутсорс. Это как раз
tasks.
пойти и
So
спросить,
we
что вам
turn
надо
second
сделать.
way. We turn into an outsource organization. So you go around and you ask what to be done.
Не пойми что.
So you'll have to do a lot. You'll have to do things that you don't understand. You have to do it stably, but without certain excitement. So
Эффективность
you'll
решения
always
этих
have
задач будет
work, but the efficiency of resolving those issues will be dropping constantly. So
технический долг
why?
может
Because
привести к
so-called
техническому
technical
дефолту.
debt
Технический
may
дефолт —
bring you
это,
to a
конечно, термин
technical
не про
default.
бэклоги, это про
A technical default is not about
какие-то, да, эти
backlogs.
самые
It's
долговые
more
рынки.
about just like
Тем не менее,
financial market.
у вас
But
формируется
nevertheless,
технический долг, и
a technical
кажется, что вы его переварите,
debt will
но
be
на самом
forming,
деле
and it
кажется.
seems that you may
Потому
digest
что,
it,
когда вы берете
but
что-то в технический долг, всегда думайте о том,
it's not.
когда же платеж
When you
выплатить.
have a technical debt, you always think about when you'll have to pay the interest, because this technical
Я
debt will
попытался
bite
это
you.
все как-то уместить
And
все
I
эти мысли в
try
один слайд,
to
и в один
put all
слайд
these
сделать
thoughts on one
сложно,
slide,
но цикл
but it's hard.
выглядит так.
But the
У вас
cycle
больше
looks like
обещаний,
this.
становится
You have
больше
more
разработки. Вроде бы
Promises,
круто,
you
больше
have more
работы,
development,
больше
seems like
задач,
great, a lot of
больше
work,
фич.
a lot of tasks, lots of features,
в идеале. На самом деле у вас
but
больше
that's in
разработки,
ideal world.
просто больше тестов.
But
Требуется
you have
больше
more
тестов,
developments and you need more
растет штат,
tests.
у вас растет
Your
нагрузка,
staff is
больше
growing,
тесты
your
проходят,
load of
естественно, не
work is
сразу.
growing because all
У вас
tests, they don't
больше
go
тестов,
perfectly
и
every
становится
time.
сложнее
You
процесс
have more and more
безопасной разработки.
tests, and the
А в
process of
нашей сфере,
safe
наверное, это очень
development
важный процесс.
becomes harder and harder. In our area,
Не наверное.
it's a very important
У вас
process.
сложнее процесс безопасной
So
разработки. Вы не
your
успеваете
process
тестировать,
of
вы не
safe
успеваете
development
писать новые
is
фичи.
more complex
Ну,
now.
в
Now you
конце
don't
концов,
have
вы
to
ничего
you
не
can't test it,
успеваете.
you can't write
И
new
мы
features,
возвращаемся на пункт
and
1,
as a
что вы
result,
ничего не
you can't do
успеваете, и говорите,
much. You
ладно,
can't
обещаем, что все будет хорошо. И
do
вот
on
здесь вот у
time,
вас
but you
наступает
just
технический
promise
дефолт,
that everything
потому
will
что,
be fine.
наверное,
And here you have a
с
technical
с
default
этой точки, когда
because
вы не
from this point,
справляетесь вот с
when
этой
you
обратной
are
стороной
not
заказной
able, when
разработки
you're
с
not able
широкого
to
рынка,
cope
у вас
with this
наступает
number of
технический дефолт.
developments
То
you
есть вы
have, so you
будете
have a technical default.
постоянно заняты тем, что будете только чинить.
You will
В
be
конце концов,
busy
все
just
развалится.
repairing, and
Ну,
as a
есть
result,
поговорка, деревья не
everything
растут
finally
под
will
лес, и
collapse.
там много можно всего
And there is a
проговорить.
saying that trees
В
don't
общем,
grow
технический долг — вещь
through the
коварная.
sky. So technical debt
Да
is a
вообще
pretty
долг — вещь
vicious thing,
коварная, да, и
and debt on its own
какие-нибудь
is a
кризисы
vicious thing.
98 года, они показали нам
Crisis
то, что
of
всегда
1998
рассчитывать свои возможности. И
showed us that
не
you
думать, что
have
все
to
будет
be
хорошо. Нужно быть
clear
оптимистом, но
about
реалистом.
the possibilities you have. You have to be
Большая
optimist
перемена.
but realist at the same time.
Иногда
Big
может
change
случиться
now.
так, что да, какой-нибудь технический
Sometimes what
дефолт,
happens,
в
the
кавычках,
technical default,
либо что-то
quote unquote,
другое, там,
or
другой
something
дефолт,
else,
да, я так
or some
назвал.
other
То есть
default,
случается
I
эволюция.
just
Вот
call
здесь
it
вот,
like this. So the evolution happens.
в костюме НАСА.
Here you can see an astronaut
Какой-то
wearing
мем, на
NASA
самом деле, но мне показалось очень
suit,
символично, что космонавт в костюме НАСА собрал чемодан, вокзал там, и,
and NASA
собственно,
astronaut
офис
put
компании
everything in a suitcase
где-нибудь в Соединенных Штатах Америки. То есть может случиться форс-мажор,
and
да,
left.
вот
So
компания,
what
не знаю,
may happen,
компания
there can
небольшая,
be
в конце концов, в
force
фильме,
majeure,
там,
and
говорит персонаж, смертно иногда, внезапно смерть
company is
случается,
small.
форс-мажор, там какой-нибудь ключевой специалист исчез,
That
в силу,
happens
там, положительных или отрицательных факторов. Ну, что делать?
incidentally, and
Случится
people,
форс-мажор
die, and
в
any
виде
force majeure
резкого
may happen,
изменения каких-нибудь
and all of a
политических
sudden,
условий.
abruptly, political
Запретили
conditions may
технологию.
change.
Не знаю,
For example,
обсуждали
they
запрет VPN, запретили VPN,
put a
что
ban
делать,
on
проводя
technology.
VPN.
So they put a
Делать,
ban
что
on
делать.
VPNs. What to do for
Сделки
VPN
по
providers? So they do an
слиянию,
evolution.
поглощению. Компания
So they
уходит с
have
рынка,
merge and
ее купил,
acquisition
и она перестает
transactions.
покрывать
So company leaves the market, somebody bought it,
потребности, которые на этом
and the
рынке
company
существуют.
doesn't satisfy the needs that
Команда
are in the market.
разбежалась.
The team ran away.
Ну, жиза. Такое бывает.
So what to do?
Ну, что-то
Such
комментировать.
is life.
Конкуренты
What to
победили.
comment?
Тоже в целом
Competitors
ничего хорошего для этой
won.
компании, ничего плохого для
So nothing good for the company, nothing bad for the market. Maybe for the market it's even better. So competitors won, which means that the solution actually got close to what is called a perfect product. Or maybe the business idea got exhausted. And I don't know what to give you as an example.
Ну, хотя, наверное, плохой пример про WinRAR и покупку, но, тем не менее, бизнес-идея
Have you ever bought WinRAR? Business idea to buy WinRAR doesn't do because there is a
компания ушла с рынка,
integrated
и рынок меняется.
archive program
Вот в любом
in the system.
этом случае все равно
So the company just left the market. So there is an evolution happening. Anyway,
экосистема, вот
ecosystem.
как ее вот собрать, да, потому что
How
экосистема
to
все равно
put it together?
живет не в
Because an
широком
ecosystem
мире, наверное, она живет
doesn't kind of live in a
аквариуме у нас, да, вот
global world. It's kind of live in an aquarium.
но вы же
If you have an aquarium at home, a fish tank,
вообще все, что
so you
нельзя, потому что у вас там тогда
you
будут
don't
жить не
put
рыбки,
there
а в лучшем
everything,
случае
because if you do that, then you won't have fish there anymore. You will have the microorganisms there, or like mold or
у
something.
меня лично, что
My opinion is
будущее за все-таки вот парадигмой лучший из лучших, а не только
that future is for the paradigm best for the
она
best,
позволяет, с одной стороны, бизнесу
and not only from my neighborhood.
то, что
On the one
ему
hand,
нужно.
business
Не
chooses,
ограничиваться, что вот в моем
what
магазине
they
продаются
need,
только золотые рыбки, поэтому
and they don't limit themselves with the goldfish that they sell on the store. So you want to put a compressor in your fish tank of that brand or not that brand. So this paradigm is more about business. It gives the client a freedom of choice.
Больше свободы, что ли.
Or more freedom.
Мы выступаем за открытые экосистемы.
So that's why we're here for open ecosystems, for open interface, for synergy. And
когда у вас объединяются вот несколько систем, вы можете сделать
or new level, because when you have a few ecosystems that are united, so you want them to do things that they don't do on their own. And when you talk about synergy effect, I was trying to find a proper quote for this. And I think that from all the life skills that we have, communication is probably the most useful one, and Mr. Morrison, the actor, said it right. People managed to achieve a lot of things, and they did that because they were not doing it on their own. They managed to get together, cooperate, work as a group, and communication, after all, brought to evolution as a whole. As an example, I would like to give you this. This story is possible. It's an example of integration and open ecosystem. In the Russian market, there are a lot of network equipment.
Конечных точек различных, там, армов, серверов, каких-то умных устройств.
There are some smart devices, controllers, SCAD, virtualization devices, and many different things. And also in the market, we have many solutions for different kind.
Знаете, был такое резюме, когда меня спрашивают, ну не у меня резюме, а в LinkedIn кто-то выкладывал, что когда меня спрашивают, в каких технологиях я разбираюсь, я
Sometimes they ask me what technologies you're savvy of, and the 25 technologies you have. So cross out Pokemons, and it's then you have an idea. So how to differentiate between two people, you just and their age. You just give an example and see what the answer will be. So how you build the ecosystem?
Здесь, наверное, уже время заканчивается.
I think my time is almost up.
Спасибо за внимание.
I probably have to say thank you very much for your attention, and as a result, answering the question, we spoke about ecosystems and the technical debt, and sharing my experience with you, probably you know how to be productive. I'm sure that the secret of productivity can be found in this. You need to find a certain point of your interest. Without interest, actually doesn't work. Something that is going to be useful for you. Without financial interest, it's not going to work. If even a charitable project works, probably you feel pleased that it works. And the third point is, the main thing is to create a product that will be possible to build this ecosystem, to make it more alive, so to speak, and more communicative. And I think this is the approach we are trying to preach. And as we know from practice, somebody said that practice is the main criterion of success. Somebody said that. Some of the great philosophers said that. So this practice works. So if you're interested, come to us, let's talk, let's make these integrations, ecosystems, and if I'm not mistaken, about 100 different certificates with the compatibility of them with different vendors actually gives you a certain degree of freedom for our clients. And I think it gives them quality solutions for their business tasks. So I have a little time left. So if you have a question, if you do, if you have something to say, please ask your question. If not, so then later we can meet at our booth.